My name's Karen Johnson, and today's topic is kaleidoscope blocks. I'm going to demonstrate today how you can get a kaleidoscope block like this, or like any of these, out of that. So you need to understand how to identify the repeat in your fabric. We're going to show you the repeat in this fabric by focusing on one side, on a selvage. So this is the length of the selvage, which is the length of the fabric. And I'm going to tell you in advance that this particular floral has about a 12.5-inch repeat. The way I discovered that is to identify some key identifiable things. I'm going to look for that flower, and I'm going to consider the bottom of that flower where I want to focus. I'm just moving my ruler there just so I can get an idea of it. So I'm going to follow the flowers down a little ways until I find that flower again. There it is. So that is one complete repeat. I'm going to pull back so that you can see it. You see that? So one repeat here, if I follow the ruler, is down to the bottom of that flower again, is about 12.5 inches. Now I'm going to cut this big piece of fabric down into roughly 12.5-inch sections so that, and I'm going to start at that same exact spot on all the different pieces so that I can make sure that I can line up all the different pieces so that when I make my kaleidoscope block, the pieces are all going to be lined up exactly so that the same flower is in the same spot in every piece of fabric. Next, you need to know how many pieces are going to be in your kaleidoscope block. We're going to make a 4-patch, so that means we need 4 layers of fabric. So I've cut these down into 12.5-inch pieces, and I've cut 4 of them. And they don't have to be exactly the same size, they just need to make sure that they all incorporate that same 12.5-inch repeat. So the important piece to look at here is that I've got the same flower in the same spot on all of them. If you're going to do a different kaleidoscope block, like a six-pointed one or an 8-pointed one, they go up at all different sizes, then you'll need as many layers as there are segments in your kaleidoscope block. For example, in this one that I've just completed for the After Hours project that you'll see later, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 segments, so that meant I had to have 8 layers to make this one work. But again, the project we're working on now is going to be a 4-patch, so I only need 4 layers. To make a kaleidoscope block in its truest sense, it needs to have tessellating fabrics. So every wedge in your block has to be exactly the same position in your fabric all the way through the layers. So the method we're using is to layer all the fabrics and make sure that they're all in exactly the same place so that when you cut through, say this flower is in exactly the same location all the way through all of the layers. So I recommend using flat flower head pins. In our example, we're going to use 4 layers because it's easy for demonstration, but you can layer up to 8, even 10 layers if you have a heavy enough rotary cutter to get through all those layers. But the maximum guideline is usually between 6 and 8. So what I recommend is look closely at your design and identify something like the inside corner of a flower, something that's distinctive to you that you can remember the exact spot. The end of a stem, I'm going to use the tip of a leaf. I'm going to get really close so that you can see it's the tip of the leaf. And you're going to put your pin in through the tip of that leaf. Then when you go to the next layer, which I'll show you in a second, you need to remember exactly what that location is so that you can go through that tip of that leaf through all 4 layers. So I've gone through the first layer. Now I'm going to find the same exact spot on the second layer and insert the pin all the way through there. So I've gone through all 4 layers, but these layers aren't aligned yet, and the pin is sort of awkwardly through there. So notice I'm wiggling it with my fingers quite a lot. Only way to describe this really is to kind of jostle the fabric around until you feel that the pin is perpendicular through all the fabrics. And when you hold your fingers on both sides of the fabric, holding the pin, you can feel that it's straight through and it's not angled or the fabrics underneath aren't fighting you. That means that you're perfectly aligned. So push the pin all the way through, leave it there so that it's sticking out and it's in a safe place so it doesn't come undone, and then move on to the next pin. So I'm on the second pin here. I just wanted to show you that I've gone through 3 of the layers, and I'm going to get really close so you can see I've aligned with the 4th layer. And again, I'm going to just shake it a little bit so that the fabric is all lined up and through all the layers, and I'm going to make sure that it's all the way through and straight, not flat but straight. I'm going to push that pin in. So I've got 2. I'm going to repeat this in several spots. So I've got maybe 4 across the top, and then in a couple of other places throughout. And each time you're going to kind of wiggle that fabric a little bit until you feel like you've got it very smooth. So I'm just going to show you that I've got 4 pins in here. All of them are still perpendicular to the fabric. That actually is, it just fell down. And now I'm going to let this fabric lie flat. There's my perpendicular pin. It's actually standing straight up, if you can see that. And I've made sure that it's through all the layers and perfectly aligned. Then I put a couple of pins in while that's flat. Because otherwise, if I do this and I lay this, the fabric will actually move just a tiny bit when I move this around. I want this one to stay in place while I pin around it. Do the same thing on all of these in all the different places that you've reinforced, and then you'll have all of your fabric designs aligned perfectly through all 4 layers. So I have all my pins in place. I've got them all along the top, and I've got them in a few places down here. So I am now completely confident that anytime I cut this fabric up, that flower is going to be in the same exact spot through all the layers that are underneath. So I've got 4 layers here because this was intended for a 4-patch kaleidoscope block, but I can use the same exact technique for as many layers as I need. In another project that I'll show you later, this is a paper template that I'll put in a template plastics so that I can cut kaleidoscope blocks where there are 8 different segments to the kaleidoscope. And Bethany Reynolds has a couple of different rulers. This one's the 15-degree fan ruler. And in this case, I would have to have 24 wedges if you wanted to do that. That's a lot of layers, but you'd have 24 layers. What she uses these for are actually fans, where there's more like 8 segments. And so you can use this for 8 layers. So whatever it is you're going to make, however many layers you have is how many exact duplicate wedges you will end up with for your kaleidoscope block.